All right, let's talk about being desperate for a cheap place to live. I think we've all been there, right? But what if the catch wasn't, mold or some terrible plumbing, but something else, something way weirder? Our story starts with a pretty common sentiment. I didn't believe in ghosts. Until mine started charging me rent. Yeah, you heard that right. We're not talking about rattling chains or spooky moans here. We are talking about a ghost who wants to split the utility bills. But get this, that's not even the craziest part. And the worst part, it wasn't even the fact that he was a ghost. Oh no, it was something so much weirder. It turns out I'm the one haunting him. So how on earth does that even happen? Well, let's get into it. Okay, so how did we end up in this mess? Well, like so many modern horror stories, it all started with a really, really bad financial decision. So our main character was, let's just say, checking your bank balance before buying a bag of chips broke. You know the feeling. And that's when he stumbled upon it. A room for rent that was just ridiculously cheap, like suspiciously cheap. So naturally, he asked the landlord, hey, what's the catch? And he gets this absolute classic of a line. Oh, don't worry, the previous tenant left suddenly. I mean, come on, is that a giant waving red flag or what? Of course it is. But hey, when rent is that low, you kind of learn to ignore those flags, right? So yeah, he totally ignores the red flags and moves right in. And that's when things shift from suspiciously cheap to, well, supernaturally annoying. And it happens fast. That first night was, let's say, weird. You know, the classic haunting starter pack. Doors creaking when they're closed, the fan spinning even though it's unplugged, and then this little whisper, just finally. Our guy, he just writes it all off as, poverty hallucinations. A totally reasonable explanation. But then comes night 2. At exactly 2:47 in the morning, the game changes. Because there he is. A ghost, just sitting there, not moaning, not rattling chains. He's just scrolling on a phone. And yeah, it's my phone. So what do? He confronts the ghost, right? Just yells, "Bro, you're a ghost." And the ghost barely even looks up from the screen, totally deadpan, and says, "And you're loud. We all have problems." And it turns out this ghost isn't scary at all. He's just super annoying. Like, he'd complain about my alarm in the morning. He'd judge my cooking. He was using my Wi-Fi. And the kicker, he didn't pay a dime in rent. Basically, your classic terrible roommate, just, see-through. Okay, and this is the part where the story stops being this kind of funny, supernatural sitcom, and it takes a really sharp turn into something way more unsettling. So after a while, our guy just has to ask the ghost the one big question. Why are you still here? Why don't you just leave? And the ghost gets really quiet for a second and then drops this bombshell. I didn't leave because I can't. And from that moment, things start to get weird. Like reality is breaking weird. First, he looks in the mirror and his reflection is just a little off. It's not quite keeping up with his movements. Then he grabs his phone to try and call someone, anyone, and he realizes it's totally empty. Every single one of his contacts, just gone. So he thinks, okay, I'll call the landlord. He's the only one who might know what's going on. But the calls just won't go through. The landlord has just vanished. And just like that, he's completely, utterly alone. All right, this is it. This is the moment where our annoying ghost roommate finally spills the beans on what is really going on, and it flips everything we thought we knew completely upside down. So the ghost, and he actually looks kind of worried at this point, pulls out this old yellowed piece of a newspaper, and the headline on it, well, that's what changes everything. The headline reads, "Man dies in cheap rental room, still believes he's alive." And right there, below the words, is a picture. And it's a picture of him. The ghost finally explains it. He says, dude, you've been dead for 3 months. And what's our hero's first reaction? Is it existential terror? A crisis of the soul? Nope. It's pure, unfiltered financial outrage. He just screams, then why am I paying rent? And you know what? That is a fantastic question. And that one question, that's what cracks the whole thing wide open. Because this isn't just a haunting. Oh no. It's something much more sinister. It's a predatory business model. It turns out the landlord is running a scam for the ages. He's not just renting to living people, he's renting to ghosts who have no idea they're dead. They're not even tenants, they're trapped subscribers. They're locked into a lease for the afterlife, and the landlord just keeps pulling rent money from their old bank accounts. Which really just leaves us with one final kind of chillin' question for the world we live in now, right? In this whole gig economy where absolutely everything is a subscription, does even death stop the rent? And it looks like the answer is a hard no.